All right, who's ready to talk about frames and foundations? This guy. How about you? Okay, so your typical frame these days is made of 2 sidebars, a grooved bottom bar, and a top bar. It goes like this. This is called the wedge, a wedge top bar. This is normally right in here. I've just sort of popped it out for right now. It comes kind of together, and you just pry it up, pry it off, and you got a little wedge here and your regular top bar. How you put it together is, it may be very simple to most of you, but there's a few out there that need a little reminder. You take your sidebars here. This will be together. You take your top bar, put them all together in here, and you would have had some Elmer's glue in here, and you'd nail right there. I'd also nail this way. I'd also nail this way. And you'd have nails here and nails here. Get a real good snug fit. Again, it's glued and nailed. And what you'll do is you'll take your foundation. This is a L-hook foundation. There's many different types out there. This is just one type. And I'll try and do this. Hopefully it'll stay together now that since it's not glued. But what I do is I lay it right in here just like this. And I find, so my L's are sticking up right now, right here, along here. I can feel them if I rub my finger on it. I find a little groove, and I'll set the base or the bottom of the foundation right in the bottom groove, right? And I'll just sort of push this just a little bit here. These little L's are riding up against the top bar right there. Then I'll take my wedge, and all you're doing is wedging these L hooks in there, just like that. It may be a good idea to sort of, you can take a hive tool, you can take a X-Acto knife and just sort of scrape any sort of burr pieces of wood and sort of splinters that may be sticking up. But all I've done is take that wedge and wedge the foundation right in there. And then I take a nail, well I take multiple nails, 1, 2, usually 3 or 4. And it's, a lot of people when you're starting out you use a hammer, and that's fine, you don't need any fancy tools, but when you start making hundreds of these at a time, you'll usually use an air nailer with a little tiny finish nail, like a 5/8 inch finish nail, and you go just like that, and you're done, and you're in business. Obviously, it's kind of a good idea to let this stuff dry first before you put the frame or the foundation in the frames, but do what you need to do. So anyways, you put this all together, and you put it in the hive, and you're off and running. That's one type. Here's another type. This is a plastic foundation that's been sprayed with a little bit of wax on top, and really this thing just pops in here. I'm not going to do too crazy things right here, but you can tell, see how it's coming out just like that? All you do is take this piece, I'll just take it out, why not? You take this sheet of plastic wax lined foundation, you stick it in the groove on the top bar, and you just sort of pop it in. And you're in business. Again, you built this frame 1, 2, 3, 4 with these nails and glue. 1, 2, 3, 4. You put I usually put a staple in here, not a nail, but a staple holding it sideways there, and then another staple right there to hold it together so there's no shear back and forth. But it's pretty simple, right? Pretty basic. Now there's primarily 2 different types of foundation on the market today. There's large cell and small cell. For about 7 or 8 years, I was exclusively a small cell beekeeper, and unfortunately, it didn't really pay off. It didn't give me everything I was hoping for. So these days, I've been actually sort of transitioning to large cell. This is a large cell foundation. Those are large cell as well. But one way to find out, do you have large cell or small cell? Here's a trick. Is if you take a business card, a standard size business card, and you put the base of the business card at the beginning of a cell, and you count 10 cells across, that's pretty much 5.4 millimeters, which is large cell. A little bit smaller than that, about a half a cell or so smaller than that, you're gonna end up with a 4.9 millimeter cell. So anyways, another way to do it too is when I was first starting out and I was doing a lot of hive removals, I would go into someone's house and I would cut out a beehive from someone's wall, and I wanted to see, was that a small cell or a large cell or a natural cell colony. Well, one way to do it is I had a couple lines grooved on my hive tool, so I knew which one was 4.9 and which one was 5.4 millimeters, and all I need to do is hold up the hive tool, Actually, it was like this: hold the hive tool to the foundation, and I would be able to count the cells just with that line on here, and I know very, very fast, is this a natural cell colony? In other words, have they been around a while? Or is this a swarm from a beekeeper's colony right down the street that moved in a couple months ago, and it's really not as wild and feral as I thought or I hoped it would be. Instead, it was more man-made of a colony. So anyways, hopefully that makes sense. Pretty simple stuff. This, again, plastic foundation sprayed with a little bit of wax on there. Very fast, pops in there. There is some debate whether the bees like the plastic less than they like the wax. I think that's probably the case. But these are certainly a whole lot easier. Also, it's the wax moths can't chew through this way, like through it. However, they can chew across it. Don't let anybody fool you. These still are not wax moth resistant. The wax moths will still eat on the top of the foundation, or the wax that's been drawn out, just not through there. As opposed to this, where the wax moths can chew and go crazy. Also, there's these are called transmission holes, or it's where the bees can basically talk to each other, and they can pass through and go in and out, that sort of thing. They can chew the foundation away if they want more holes to get through, and they really can't do that with a wax lined plasticell frame. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. You got any questions? Shoot me an email. This is always a big old debate, so bring them. I'm ready for all the questions. There's goods and bads. I'm no expert. This is just sort of what I'm doing right now. And when you're starting out, it's best to just stick with one system and go for it for a year. It's not a great idea to be mixing these two together until you get a little bit more experience under your belt. And when you do, don't hold back. Try everything. Experiment like crazy.